And a good Tuesday to you. Welcome on into Lunch with Claibs and Joe, driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura and powered by Ameren, Illinois. I'm Joe Roderick, joined alongside by Mike Claiborne and Claibs. We've been doing shows. We've been doing shows for years now, but for the last 6 months, talking Cardinal baseball, leading up to the postseason, and it's finally here this weekend. But still, 2 games to play. We don't know who the Cardinals are going to be welcoming into Busch Stadium.
Well, we know one thing: whoever we play is going to be good. They won't be confused with Cincinnati or Pittsburgh. We'll be playing a team that's already in playoff mode because they're battling to try and establish a spot in the playoffs. So we're going to have our hands full, no matter who it is. And I think the Cardinals are ready for it. When you look at San Diego and Philadelphia, Cardinals match up reasonably well with both of them. So it should be fun. And I think the way the playoff format is set up, you say, oh, you got home field advantage. Yeah, you do. But, man, you lose game one, man, all of a sudden everything changes with regard to how you deal with game two. And in this situation for the Cardinals, I think the roster construction is still going to be up for grabs. I think there's some spots that are not safe and players that are not safe. So there's a little drama for the Cardinals as well as we go into the final 2 days of the season.
I think you look right now. So right now in Pittsburgh, the Cardinals roster is at 28. We know that on Friday that roster is going to be back down to 26 for the playoff games. There are guys right now on that 28-man roster who are not going to more than one. I mean, that are not going to have a seat at the table. I'm talking more than 2 guys. I mean, I know they have to cut it down by 2, but it's going to be a lot more than the 28. Just those 2 guys. You imagine what Deluzio and Burleson, if those are the first 2 out. I mean, you got O'Neill coming back. You have Gorman that's with the team now. Cabrera's now back with the team. There's a lot of decisions that are going to have to be made by the coaching staff in the front office before Friday.
There's no question. There's a lot of hand wringing, and it'll be interesting to see who's going to be in on that conversation. I would think scouts, Mo, Ali, coaching staff, all those guys will have a voice. But this is going to be something challenging. And what else comes into play? There's going to be a tough discussion to be had with some players. I know one has already taken place, and I'm sure there'll be another one or 2 that's going to happen. So I would just say, don't get used to what you've seen. Be prepared for what's going to take place.
And that you mentioned the scouts, you mentioned the coaching staff. I wonder how much, and you can shed a little light into this when it comes to decisions like this. I mean, last year in the wild card game, we saw Juan Yepes get called up, and that was the first time he was in a St. Louis Cardinal uniform in his career. Was that 1-game wild card game against the Dodgers last year? How much, I guess, of a voice does someone like Ben Johnson, the Memphis Redbirds manager, have in this? Because he's a guy that has seen Gorman for the past month. He has seen he's seen what Cabrera's done the past month. Dakota Hudson has made starts for him. What are they looking for out of the way some of these guys perform down in Memphis to decide if they're ready to go again in the playoffs?
Well, they've already probably received Ben Johnson's reports and evaluations on players, considering their season is now over. So I think his voice has already been documented. I think what it comes down to now is need. And it was interesting. You mentioned Yepes. I wonder if there's going to be a guy like that this year. Now, the reason why I think he went with it last year, Cardinals were not as deep then as they are now. So there probably wouldn't be as much of a need. But I think when it's all said and done, they have a lot of issues they still need to address. And I don't know if there's a Juan Yepes available to them this year. Would it be Gomez? Would that be a guy you'd look at? I mean, there's some people that are on the radar that we just don't hear a lot about.
How does that work with the 40-man in the postseason?
I think that'll be the big issue. Who do you bring up? Who do you put on the 40-man? I mean, because right now the 40-man is full. You don't have anybody you can move to the 60-day DL. Or do you put somebody on the 10-day DL? I mean, there's a lot of different moving parts here that you might have to think long and hard about, which is why I said earlier, don't worry about what you've seen. You might want to think about what you're going to see.
What have you heard about Tyler O'Neill and his rehab? I know he's with the team in Pittsburgh. That's a guy that has been a starter for the team whenever he's been healthy this year.
Well, here's what I think comes into play. The question is, can the Cardinals count on him? This has not been a good season for him for a variety of reasons. The injuries, the slump, more injuries. Got hot for about a week or so, then the slump, then another injury. It's not been a good season for him. And so the question is, I think that they pose is, can we count on you? And I don't know if they can or not. This hasn't been from arbitration on. This has not been what I think we envisioned for Tyler O'Neill. I think they had him down for 35 homers and 90 runs driven in, an OPS of near 900, or maybe over 900, because you would assume the strikeouts would have been reduced. They weren't. So you got a lot of different things to discuss here, and I think the question is, and again, can they count on him? And I think that's an answer we're all still trying to figure out. Now he's taking BP, doing some things against big league pitchers on the side. That's why you see Cabrera and some other people around, and they want to see what he can do against some of those guys. But right now, it's just still up in the air.
We will we'll get the answers to those Thursday, Friday before they open up against either the Phillies or the Padres. As we mentioned earlier, right now the Padres have a 1-game lead on the Phillies for that 5th playoff spot, but the Phillies hold the tiebreaker in that. Remember, no game 163. The tiebreaker for Phillies and Padres is going to be what they did head-to-head against each other this past season. So the Phillies do hold the tiebreaker over the Padres right now, and but the Padres are hosting the Giants while the Phillies are in Houston. So one more Padre win, one more Phillies loss, and that'll be settled before before the end of the games Wednesday night. By the way, tomorrow also all games starting at the same time. What is it? 3:00 Eastern?
3:15.
3:15. Yeah, well, I think the Cardinals are at 3. I think they range from like 3:05 to 3:15. Certain teams have their special start times or whatever in there.
Well, they do that because they want everybody to finish at the same time.
Yeah.
And that was a bigger issue last year when it came to the tiebreaker. But I think for this reason, you hope everybody finishes at the same time so you can have the schedule out, because you only have one day off in between. So you can have the schedule out to the networks, and the networks can pass it on to who's watching what. They've already given out the broadcast assignments for ESPN and Fox, and we've seen some of those, but we need times. And I'm going to go with something Joe West has talked about. If you're the Cardinals, you want to play at either 1:15 or 6:15 or 7:15. Sunday was a great example of the fall shadows at Busch Stadium are almost dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to see somebody get hurt because they don't pick up a ball, or a guy leans into a pitch he didn't see breaking on him. So if you're the Cardinals, you like to play at 1:15 or 6:15.
What do you? As you look at that right now, so let's just go off of what the standings are right now. So if they are Mets and Padres, that's one series. The other National League series would be St. Louis and Philadelphia. Then you have the Guardians and Tampa, and then Toronto and Seattle. Mets get primetime, right? They get whatever the primetime game is, that goes to the New York Mets.
And yeah.
So how does the rest of is there one after that game? Do you make all the other ones in the day? How do you have any idea what time frame they are looking at for these 4 games?
I don't. This is a unique setup as far as the format's concerned. So I'm just going to sit back and wait and see if they can get it remotely right. And who knows? Maybe they do, because you're trying to think about the whole country. All right, as far as times are concerned. But you're also thinking about the TV markets. I mean, San Diego's a pretty big size TV market also. So you got those two to deal with. Cleveland is a large market. The Friday is going to be different because the thing is, you've got a lot of other things going on. You have Friday night football in high school. Saturday, you're going up against college football, and that's going to be very interesting to see what kind of number they get. I haven't seen the college football schedule yet as far as the primetime games, But man, I'd hate to want to go up against a really good prime time event. And then you have Sunday, you're going to go up against the NFL. But you've been going up against the NFL all season with ESPN. So, in the evening. So there are a lot of different scenarios to take a look at on how you're going to figure out what's best for TV.
And as you mentioned, the TV crews have come out. So whoever the Mets get, they will have Carl Ravitch, David Cohn, and Eduardo Perez. The Guardians series will have Boog Shambi and Doug Glanville. The Blue Jays series will have Dave Fleming, Jessica Mendoza, and Tim Kirkjian, which means the Cardinals series will get Michael Kay and Alex Rodriguez. Good news for KMOX.
Yeah, we're going to have a whole lot of listeners.
Yeah.
And you know what? We've added to our broadcast. Dan McLaughlin is coming over from TV. So it'll be the four of us involved with the broadcast. And I feel as good about what we're going to do before, during, and after the game as I ever have. So I'm looking forward to this. Dan's worked with us during the season when he's been available. So we'll bring our A game. I'm not worried about us.
No, turn the TV volume down and turn your radio up. Bring your transistor radio to the ballpark and listen that way, old school style too. That's what I'm saying. I think
you can find a transistor.
I think if if there's tickets available, maybe buy those too. Maybe that's to not have to listen to that broadcast crew. Maybe you buy the tickets and go to the game.
Well, and you know what? It's no offense to either one of them. But I don't know how much Cardinal baseball, let alone Philadelphia Philly baseball, they watch. Now, they get a lot of information, okay? They'll have reams of information to go by. But to have a feel for this is going to be a little bit of a challenge. And so we'll see. But, that's not my problem. We'll do the best radio we can do.
You radio and TV were both covering this past Sunday's ceremonies at Busch Stadium, Albert Pujols and Yadier Molina, the farewell to both of them. By the way, happy Yadier Molina Day to you over in St. Louis.
You know what? I should have put my Yachty cap on. I don't have my Yachty caps in the closet.
Yeah,
I should put them. You know what? Do we have time for me to go get it?
We'll have a commercial break, but
why don't we take a commercial break and we'll be ready for it?
You want to do that right now, or you want to talk about the ceremony? All right,
let's do it right now so I can talk about it with great pride and joy.
Well, here you go. Information on the Cardinals 2023 season tickets right here.
And the 2-1 is out to deep center again. Yes! He's done it again. In the air. It is gone! Welcome back, Albert. Foul territory, and he caught it. Tommy Edman.
Guarantee every 2022 postseason game with a deposit for 2023 season tickets. Learn more at cardinals.com/season.
Joe Roderick back here. Mike Claiborne, I guess searching through all of his Cardinal memorabilia. Oh my God, he went and got the jacket too. So not only is Claibs celebrating Yadier Molina Day with his Molina 4 hat on, he also has gone.
You see what I have?
I see
championship jersey. My championship warm-up jacket.
What is that from? Is that
from? Bayamon, this is Yachty's basketball team.
Oh, look at you! That's a collector's item in the U.S., right? I mean, not a whole lot of those start making their rounds here in the States.
Well, if you can find one in the States, let me know. So we got the Yachty hat on. Happy Yachty Day, everyone.
Yeah. Happy Yadier Molina Day. That ceremony, that was really well done. The speeches that they gave, the front office, Mo, the DeWitts, talking about what Albert and Yachty have meant to them their entire career. It was really well done, and you know how special those two men are to the three guys that talked up there that day, and not even including Wainwright. We'll get to that. But the three guys in the front office who have seen their entire careers of Yachty and Albert, you know how much it means to both of them, seeing what Yachty has meant to this club for almost 2 decades, and knowing how much. I think really what was really relevant there was how much Albert's return meant to all these guys and what he's been able to accomplish this season.
Well, it was a great ceremony. I would agree with you. We haven't had one like that in a while. And the words really meant something from Mr. DeWitt, Bill the Third, and Mo. And you could tell that Yachty and Albert were really moved by what was going on. It was a good event. I don't know how, and like I said, we haven't done this in a while. So I don't think there was a wrong answer in how they did it. So congratulations to the Cardinals and Tony Simakaitis and his group for putting that whole thing together. But it'll be a day I won't soon forget.
Yeah, that was the very touching moments throughout the video, tribute to both of them, watching all of their years in a Cardinal uniform pass by. I really enjoyed that they threw in both of their pitching performances this year into that. Because it's going, it's just going big moment after big moment after big moment, all these emotional moments, these big hits, home runs, World Series celebrations, and then you get Albert on the mound, in Pittsburgh, floating the ball up there, which I mean is a memory that we're all going to remember forever about this 2022 season.
Yeah, and you know what? It's been such a fun season, and we had more jovial highlights than we would normally have. And I think that, the way things worked, I don't think you could draw it up any better. Maybe the fact if you can win a World Series, that would really put the icing on the cake. But I'm just inhaling it and enjoying it while I can.
And like I've said this a few times in regards to their World Series chances, you have these great storylines right now surrounding Albert, Yachty, and Wainwright. It's almost as if you forget about the two best players on the team that the Cardinals have in Goldschmidt and Arenado. They are such afterthoughts right now with everything else surrounding this team that you really do forget that this isn't just those stories that are making this run. It's that you have, a guy that's going to win MVP and a guy that's going to finish top 5 in the MVP that nobody seems to be talking about at all nationally because of everything else that's happening.
Yeah, no, I think there's some validity to that. And if you ask Nolan and or Paul, they see that's fine.
Right.
They're not really, looking for any sort of glory or any attention. I think they're having as much fun taking this in as anyone. I was talking to Goldie about it the other day, and he just was grinning. He was laughing. He was like, "This is really fun. I'm having a ball with this," because we all know we're never going to see this again. And to say I played with a guy who hit 700 plus home runs, I played with a guy who holds multiple records behind the plate. There's not many guys that can say that, and these guys are playing with these guys in the primes of their career.
I just think about what Albert did last night, hitting home run number 703. He passed a record held by Babe Ruth. I mean,
I think that's the most of all the records that he's accomplished, all the things he's done. I think that's the most meaningful because it tells me that he's always been a money player. Mm-hmm. He's always been able to produce when counted upon. And Henry Aaron's record to me is the greatest record in baseball. I mean, there's some pitching records I'm sure we could look at, but I think from a consistency standpoint, and Henry Aaron never hit 50 home runs.
Right.
So, and for him to have more RBIs than anyone else, which is a tribute to the teams he was on too. Somebody had to be on base in front of him. And I think the same can be said for Albert. And you think about where Albert's hit in the order, normally it's been anywhere from 3rd through 5, hit second a couple of times. I think he's hit second 4 times in his entire career. But when you think about the players who had to get on in front of him, it's also a tip of the cap to them.
You mentioning Albert hitting 3rd, that just reminded me. Yesterday when I was on with Rammer, I mentioned how good of a job Ali Marmol did handling the situation, how well of a job he's been doing handling everything, these past few weeks. And I think we're going to see Albert play these next 2 days in Pittsburgh because I think both Albert, Ali, the Cardinals, I think they realize that there are Cardinal fans who got these tickets to see Albert play in his final games. Give him an at-bat, give him the day off, or give him the rest of the day off. Just let them show their appreciation to Albert. But I thought it was really fitting on Sunday that Albert was playing first and batting 3rd, just like he had for the first 11 years of his career with the Cardinals. And then you had Yachty batting 5th, where he hasn't hit all year. But you know what? That's where we got used to seeing Yachty so many years, was batting 5th in the order for the Cardinals. And it was kind of one last tribute to them here in St. Louis.
This whole process has been so well thought out, and I don't think it was a coincidence that Albert gave Oliver Marmol a lot of love in his speech, because I think he's done a masterful job in every category of managing players, managing coaches, being prepared, understanding the analytics, dealing with the media. Um, he's manager of the year, and I know Buck Showalter's going to get a lot of votes because he's gotten the Mets back into a situation. But you know what? If Oliver Marmol and John Zalak spent that kind of money, you know what? We wouldn't even be talking about Buck Showalter. It'd be a boat race. Everybody says, "Well, Dave Roberts has got $300 million to play." Yeah, and that's true, and I think everybody accepts that. But I'm not sure if anyone has done a better job in the National League than Oliver Marmol, especially how they caught a team from behind and passed them to the point where that team is not going to make the playoffs. He's dealt with injury. When you don't have Flaherty starting the season, Alex Reyes was supposed to be in the rotation. He wasn't around. You had some other guys who didn't live up to the expectations. We talked about Tyler O'Neill. And then all of a sudden, here's a guy like Lars Nootbaar. You make a trade and you pick up Montgomery and Quintana and Stratton. Some other guys emerged. Where would they be without Brendan Donovan? And Oliver Marmol's way to put him in the lineup somewhere, somehow, every day. I just think, man, he's done an incredible job, and he could do this for quite a few years.
Did you guys know the plan of how he was going to take the players out of the game on Sunday?
Well, I talked to him before the game like I do every game, and I kind of asked him, did we have a game plan? He said, yeah, I'm going to go get all three of them at the same time. Mm-hmm. And maybe going to get Wayno was doing us all a favor because Wayno wasn't very good that day, but that was his plan, and he was able to execute it.
Yeah, that was really well done. Hey, before we get off the Cardinal stuff and move on to some football, quickly, right as of right now, here on the 4th, first playoff game is the 7th. What do you think the playoff rotation will be this weekend for the wild card round?
Man, that's been the question of the week, right? It will be Michaelis, Quintana, and I would go with a combination of Montgomery and Flaherty for Game 3.
Okay.
I would put Wayno in the bullpen, not for he's the first guy I'm bringing in, but I need somebody out there who kind of understands how the bullpen works. If the Cardinals have an Achilles heel here, they don't have any bullpen experience in Major League with any postseason experience, so to say. You think about it, who's your longest tooth guy out there? See what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't have it. So I know it's been a while since Wayno's done that, but I think you got to have somebody out there who kind of understands how this works. So right. I would have him on a roster for that alone. And, so who's out? I don't know. Palante hasn't been as effective as he once was. Chris Stratton's giving you some quality innings, but I don't know if he's that bit much of a difference maker. What happens if Jordan Hicks is ready to go? And there's another X factor we haven't talked about. So there's a lot of different things that are going to take place, but I think Wainwright's got a role in the bullpen, just being there for and with those guys.
I've said Quintana, Michaelis, and Montgomery is my three that I'd roll out there with for.
Well,
for
here's
series.
The thing. I want to have a couple of long arms in the bullpen because Quintana's only going to give you 5, maybe 6. So maybe here's where Dakota Hudson comes into that game. Then you have the Game 3. If you need a Game 3, it's an all hands on deck event. But if you have 2 guys that can give you 3 apiece, that gets you to 6, maybe 7. And then you can have 2 guys mop it up in the 8th. So you have to be careful with your bullpen and how you use them in the previous game. So I need long arms in this situation.
We will we'll have plenty of postseason coverage for you here on Claibs Online. However far the Cardinals go, we will be with you every single day. Bob Ramsey and I doing Daily Cards Live. Of course, where you can find Claibs at all every single day, down to the ballpark, getting access that nobody else is getting. And hell, we all saw that last week as Claibs was right there helping Albert give his clinching speech there in the locker room of the game after they won in Milwaukee. You had a front row seat to everything that happened there, Claibs. I've
been lucky. I've been very fortunate. I tell people The difference between being in TV in baseball season and radio is I get wet. TV doesn't. Jimmy Hayes does. I mean, but from an overall standpoint, the further we go, the wetter I get. And I can't say enough while I'm thinking about it. Working around and being with Jim Hayes is one of the fun things I do. This guy works his ass off. Okay, he's prowling, looking for the next story, the next interview, and I consider him a great friend to work with. And he will be part of what they do, but not to the extent of what we've known him to be before now.
He got out there yesterday and talked to. He got out there in the stands, in the bleachers yesterday, and talked.
Well,
to the
there's
guy
plenty
that
of room out there.
Yeah, talked to the guy that caught 703, and he did his best to try to negotiate that ball away from him, but just wasn't able to get the guy to strike a deal. So he worked on it. He was offering up. I don't know if you were watching last night when it happened.
No, I wasn't. Yeah. I was listening. I'm in the radio business.
Yeah. He offered him signed pictures of Danny Mack and Brad Thompson, and the guy would not take them. So
I don't know why he wouldn't.
His loss on that. But hey, every single day we are bringing you Cardinals coverage here on Claibs Online, and it'll be brought to you by Claibs, our friends over at Fast Eddie's in Alton, Illinois.
Fast Eddie's is on board. He's going to be part of what we do. Peel and eat shrimp, the Fat Eddie burger. There's a lot of great things that they have over there. Plus, they have all the TVs you want. Friday afternoon, hopefully it's a Friday afternoon game. I don't care when it is. It's a good place to go over and check out the games with friends and family. You have to be 21 or over to go. But once you get in, you'll understand why Fast Eddie's is one of the great spots to convene, certainly in Southern Illinois, just not Missouri. But Southern Illinois, over in Alton, just across the bridge from St. Louis. You're right there. And we'll have some other announcements about Fast Eddie's hopefully coming up in the very near future. But bottom line is they're on board, and they know how to make things work, and we'll make sure things work for them as well.
This is Lunch with Claibs and Joe, driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura and powered by Ameren, Illinois. That's about a half hour of Cardinal talk here to kick off the show for you today. If you missed any of it, it'll all be available on the podcast. We have some football stuff to talk about, though, when we come back right here, claibsonline.com.
My name is Jeremy Seabury. I am one of the owners of Pawford K9.
Marcus Galmore, co-owner of Pawford K9.
What makes us different from other dog companies is there is no breed left behind. We stand by that 120%. We specialize in aggressive behavior modification. We don't turn away. We bring them in for a free evaluation to see if we can help the dog.
Here at Pawford K9, we focus on the owners, educating the owners.
How do I get this dog to give me the behaviors that I'm asking for without the treats? So that's when me and Marcus come in. We train the dog, so when you take the dog home, you don't need the treats. The dog is doing it because you're asking it to.
After each training package, we go through a series of lessons. We keep going until the owner gets it.
We make sure that they go over the beatings with their dog, and that dog is listening before they leave here, but also we follow up when they get home. Is your pup listening to you here? If it's not, we one phone call away, we'll make a trip. We're at the Pawford Mobile, where we go out to their homes and make sure their dog is okay.
Back here, Lunch with Claibs and Joe here on claibsonline.com, powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura. Moving on to the pigskin. Claibs yesterday or last week on the show, we sat here and we talked about how ugly of a game it was probably going to be between Georgia and Mizzou, and the Tigers almost shocked the world out in Columbia, Missouri this past weekend. They held their own against the number one team in the nation, and if things would have went their way in the second half, we might have seen those goalposts torn down and carried through town once again.
Well, you know what? You mentioned the second half. That game was lost in the first half. When you're first and goal from the one and you settle for a field goal because of your conservative play calling, that put Georgia back in the game. And then you got even more conservative or inconsistent in the second half offensively. That really gave Georgia all they needed because you just kind of played right into their hands. And, it was unfortunate. And, while I'm not big on moral victories and I'm not going to be one here, that was a winnable game for them, despite the fact that Georgia was a superior team before the game started. You had them. You had Georgia, but you didn't execute. And I start with coaching. And I've said this 2 weeks in a row. We got to be better at play calling. And if you're not sure about the quarterback, and put somebody else in. And if he's not ready, then we have to wonder, why isn't he ready? Because there, I guess what I'm saying is the way practices and players are so readily available to learn the system. As I said to you last week, they've had Luther Burden and I believe Sam Horn since January. All right. So you can only watch so much film. You can only do so many things, learn the plays. You got to get out and execute. And there's something missing here, because for you not to trust guys at this point, then either you recruited the wrong guy or you're not able to teach him what he needs to know. So you tell me.
Yeah, and they, for the folks that think that Eli Drinkwitz should be, hasn't done a good job coaching, that maybe should be replaced after this year.
No, that's stupid.
Right. I agree. I'm throwing out there what some of the fans might be upset about right now.
Let's not get into the fans.
But what
anybody who comes up with that, it doesn't know what he's talking about.
But I'm saying, being able to go out there and, as you said, hold your own against Georgia shows that the coaching is there, the game plan is there, the execution, and maybe some of those adjustments in game that need to be made, like being more aggressive in certain situations. That's something that will come with time, I guess. Maybe playing just a little too scared in that game.
Well, yeah, I guess that's one way to look at it. I guess the thing is, you want to have a set of standards as far as your game plan is concerned. But when you have a chance to go for the jugular, you have to do it, because that's a good team on the other side of the field. They have the capability of quick strike. They have the ability to play good defense. So when you have them on the ropes, you got to finish them, man. You can't give them that much respect. If that's the case, you shouldn't be playing them in the first place.
Right. They did get another good game out of the thicker kicker in that one, as Mevis with a 56-yard field goal, 5 for 5 for him too. That's been a bright spot for the Tigers this weekend, outside of all of the everything else that happened in that game. Plus, I just wanted to say thicker kicker too. That's one hell of a nickname.
One of those things you wanted to figure a way to get that in the conversation.
I needed to get that in there. I needed to get all my stuff in before we moved on to that. Mizzou did come out with a announcement yesterday. They are going to be playing Memphis at the Dome next year, and as a part of Mizzou to St. Louis, they are going to be trying to get games there at the Dome each and every year. First time that we've seen a game at the Dome since bragging rights, which ended about 10 years ago or so. It's been a long time since that Mizzou Illini matchup took place there. So that's good news for St. Louis football fans to get a game back there in town.
So now that you got a football game here, is there any chance you can get the basketball team to come to St. Louis?
Outside of the bragging rights game?
Yeah, to play St. Louis U.
Oh, you're talking about playing this at SLU.
Yeah.
You and I think both agree that should be happening every year. There's no reason to not have it.
I agree.
But as far as the football game being here, though, that's good news. That'll
good
fill up,
because
and
you get some people from. I don't know if it'll fill up. Let's be careful here. But you get some folks from Memphis to come up. Tigers are, in a different conference, but it's a game you should win. But it's, reaching out and who knows where it leads you to.
And getting different opponents there, opponents that people want to see, will help with filling that up.
So is Illinois the next school you'd like to see play there? It worked before.
We've seen it, and yeah, it's worked, but are there other schools out there you'd rather see? Would you want to see in Iowa? Would you want to see Wisconsin?
No, I'd like to start with Illinois.
Okay. And
although Iowa and Wisconsin are very good, so maybe you want to get them on the schedule.
Right. I still, to get to do that, to have those games, just to see somebody new every year come through, and to make that a staple of your schedule that you're going to play in this 60,000 seat venue. and we're gonna play a big name program from a big conference.
Well, I wouldn't consider Memphis a big name program.
No,
but
I'm
it's a
talking. That's what I'm
start.
talking about for the future. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm talking about for the future. That moving forward, that's what we're planning on doing with this game. That it's going to be in St. Louis, and that's how we're going to market it, and that's how we're going to try to schedule it. So we'll see what the future holds for that one. In the NFL this weekend, let's start first before we get to the stuff on the game, because we didn't talk about Tua's concussion last weekend because it was a guy that suffered a concussion. He came out of the game. There was nothing to talk about when you and I did the show last week. And then he gets cleared on Thursday, and then he gets thrown down, and we saw what happened. And by now, I'm sure everybody has seen the highlights of it and has seen what happened from that. It really is irresponsible to have a guy go out there on Thursday after suffering a concussion like that on Sunday. I think we all agree with that, and it finally took something really bad happening to show that to everybody else and to actually have some punishments handed down.
Here's the one thing we're all missing here. This league doesn't care about the health of their players. And the players, until recently, didn't know how to oppose them. This is a game where you're expected to get up and be ready for the next down. And it's always been that way. And you'll have some people, he just had his bell rung. Well, it's bigger than that now because we have more information on what the effects can be on a player, not just during his career, but certainly after his career. And that really is the bigger issue. And the problem is the NFL doesn't know how to fix it. Doctors have different opinions about how this thing works. And, you found a guy that was like, oh, yeah, he's good to go. And then you learn later that maybe this wasn't the right idea. We haven't heard the last of this. And it always seems like this league has an off-field issue in the first quarter of their season. And we're having one now. And I don't know what the next step should be. I mean, we've softened this thing up enough as it is as far as the lack of contact. And I'm not opposed to it at all. But I've come to the conclusion when I see things that take place now that guys get penalties for and maybe get suspensions and or fines 10 years ago, 15 years ago, certainly 20 years ago, it's like par for the course. That's football, as they used to say. It's not the case anymore.
How much of concussions do you think affect what we're seeing as far as the way Antonio Brown's behavior has been these past few years?
I think that has something to do with it. I'll go one step further. I just saw Herschel Walker talking about his campaign.
Right, and it
certainly something's happened to him. I mean, anybody who's sane can look at him and see that he ain't all there. And
right.
Just some of his comments. And I think there are more and more guys walking around like that. The Antonio Brown, I don't know as a receiver how many blows he actually had to the head, but one's too many.
We know the Vontaze Burfict hit that he suffered.
Yeah, and you know what? That's a good one to use because he's never the same after that.
Right.
He was never the guy that we see now. So you make a very good point on that.
But yeah, I mean, Herschel Walker every day kind of shows what head injuries can do to a person. Antonio Brown, it's a little more sporadic. When's the last time we heard his name before he went to the hotel pool this weekend? It'd been a while.
And I was hoping we'd never hear it again.
Right.
But you're right. And there's some other guys that you see their behavior, and maybe it takes a while for you to figure it out on why they are who they are. And now this is a factor in assessing erratic behavior.
Yeah. So just something to see on field. I am shocked that Philadelphia is the final undefeated team. Not so. They were, you kind of thought they could be a playoff team this year going into it, but starting off the season 4-0 and being the only 4-0 team out there, I'd say that's pretty surprising through the first quarter of the season.
I think I told you at the beginning to watch out for this team.
But the last undefeated team?
Well, that's not their fault. I
Right.
mean, you have some teams that just aren't very good. And I say that in one sense, and I hope the NFL isn't going the route of Major League Baseball. Well, what are we going to have? 400 lost teams? And I think 8 90 lost teams, or 6 or 8 90 lost teams. So either you're very bad or you're horse shit. And then you might be good. and good and very bad can beat good sometimes. Horse shit can beat good sometimes. And I think that's what you're seeing in the NFL. And I go back to my original point about not assessing teams early because they're not ready to play football. They're not physically ready to play football because they haven't done it since last year. Yeah, I know they went through practices and mini camps and preseason games, but the guys who are the difference makers didn't put half the work in as far as the physical test that comes with this because they don't have to, and they're trying to save them for a 17-game week season.
Yeah. One of the things from this weekend, we were talking about Tua, and I meant to bring it up then. Did you see the J.J. Watt story from this past weekend?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
When Tua has head injuries, and we're talking about whether or not he is able to play, a guy that has to, have his heart shocked to be able to beat the right way, I think that might be a little bit of a red flag to maybe sit a week out of the football season.
Well, maybe see, and neither one of us knows the full extent of what this heart condition is about. Is it something that's treated with medication? Is this just an anomaly that just came out of nowhere? I mean, there's a lot of things that go into it. Now, if this is new, then and he's not on any sort of heart issue medicine or anything, then maybe you ought to step back and maybe run a few more tests. But who's to say they didn't already run those tests before the weekend and everybody gave them the all clear? So while it is a concern, obviously, I think before anything was ever announced, they'd gone through enough battery of tests to make sure that this was an isolated situation. And if it wasn't, they found a way to correct it.
As we reach 4 games into the season for everybody right now, who is your favorite in the NFL?
Well, Philadelphia still shows me that they can compete. They're getting better defensively. The running game is coming around. Jalen Hurts is a better passer than he's given credit for. So I would stay with them. I think in the NFC it's kind of wide open. What's San Francisco all about? What are the Rams trying to do? Tampa Bay still a question mark. And Green Bay, I just don't think still has enough. I know they have Aaron Rodgers, but Aaron Rodgers doesn't block and he doesn't tackle.
Wide receivers don't catch.
Yeah, that's another issue.
It is. We have seen so many drop touchdown passes for the Packers already this year.
Well, you know whose fault that is? The guy who's throwing them. And here's why. Had he been a little bit more flexible with his contract demands, they may have been able to afford his favorite passing target.
Davante Adams.
Yeah, but he wasn't. So it's his fault on why Davante Adams is in Vegas because they couldn't afford to pay him because he took up a bulk of the payroll.
Do you think? I mean, we see it in all 3 other sports about trade deadline deals for a big missing piece. I don't know who's out there, but could you see the Packers go out and get a sure-handed wide receiver here at the when the trade deadline comes?
Well, I think you just answered your own question. What's out there? What's out there and what are the Packers willing to part with? Now, remember, they picked up a couple of draft choices along the way for Davante Adams, so they may be a little deeper in the draft department. But they're a good team. They're going to be drafting on the back end of the draft, and I'm not sure if that's going to help a team that's giving up a prime player.
Right. I don't know when the NFL trade deadline is. I didn't do enough research before.
I think it's at the end of the month.
Is it the end of October?
I
that
believe
makes
it's at
sense.
the
It's
end
about
of
the
the month.
halfway point. Yeah, so that would make sense. Hey, we did take one more break before we wrap things up here on Lunch with Claibs and Joe. We are powered each and every week by Ameren, Illinois, and driven by Munganast St. Louis Acura right here on ClaibsOnline.com.
St. Louis Acura has an unbeatable selection of new cars arriving daily, like the all-new 2023 Acura Integra. We also have a great selection of over 200 pre-owned and factory precision courtesy vehicles with finance rates as low as 1.9% for 36 months with approved credit. And we've added Saturday service hours to our newly renovated service facility. Don't forget, we'll buy your vehicle here at our dealership or from the convenience of your home. St. Louis Acura, better than ever for you.
Final few minutes here of lunch with Claibs and Joe. Claibs ready to go take a nap and get himself ready for the Cardinals postseason run starting this weekend. As you can see, Claibs still here in St. Louis. Cardinals out in Pittsburgh. 2 more games on the season for them. But hey, we also here in town we have Blues preseason hockey that is underway. The boys are on the ice, and yesterday the Blues announced that they are going to reveal or start the Blues Hall of Fame starting this year. All the retired numbers automatically in, and then they are also going to let fans vote on who the first 3 inductions should be for the Blues Hall of Fame. Claibs, your thoughts on that?
Well, it's a long time in coming. You know, the organization's been around for over 50 years. It's a great move on their part to go along with the Raptors numbers in the Raptors. I would, if it's me, if it's going to be 3 guys, I'm going to have one from the beginning era. I'm going to have one that maybe put the organization on the map. I'm going to have somebody who probably doesn't get the credit. So if I had 3 guys, and I do, it'd be Glenn Hall, Gary Younger, and Pierre Turgeon.
All right.
And I can make a very case for each one of them. Glenn Hall was one of the, you know, he had an incredible run in St. Louis in the brief time he was here. First Conn Smythe Trophy winner on a losing team. You think about Gary Younger, who was an MVP in an All-Star game, the first one, and not to mention the consecutive game streak that he enjoyed here. And then you have Pierre Turgeon, who should be in the Hockey Hall of Fame. If you look at his numbers are better than some of the other guys that are in there, who also didn't win Stanley Cups. I would put him in there too. He's one of the most gifted players this team's ever had. Period.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what they end up building there with that. I know it'll be in this town. It'll be something very popular for folks to go and check out.
Be great debate.
Games, off days, and just something more to go down and do in that area of St. Louis that is rapidly growing right now, along with the new soccer stadium coming here in a few months too.
Here's what St. Louis has got to do. Got a nice facility Enterprise. We have Busch Stadium. We have a new soccer facility. How about paving the streets? If you go down Olive Street, where the stadium is, you might as well get ready to schedule your front end alignment. It's an embarrassment. And the other side on Market Street is not much better. So I implore our city fathers and daughters to pave that element of downtown. And I can give you plenty of other places that need work. But if you're going to build this thing, it's brand new. At least you could make it look good as far as the roadways are concerned.
And if your car gets messed up, St. Louis, Munganess St. Louis Acura, Munganess Alton Toyota, hey, take it there. They got plenty of service bays to help fix your car up at either of those locations. They're, being able to build that out and connect them in a way to where you can go from one to the next, and you can have your restaurants, bars, and, other forms of entertainment from Busch to Enterprise, from Enterprise to Centene. You need to have something. I mean, if they can make that work, St. Louis will be better off for it, having a lot more to do and make that entire downtown area accessible 365 days out of the year, and turn it into a place that people want to go to for sporting events, for bachelorette parties, stuff like that, for concerts, for just to make this a tourist destination. That'll help an awful lot here in the future, and things are progressing well. I would say there are a lot of positive changes in the works in the city of St. Louis. So that's another good start for that. Claibs, you and I have got to get going, because we are going to jump in and record a new episode of 5460, the Joe West podcast with umpire Joe West. Recent episodes of that include Paul Krause, who's out in there this week, former NFL player, and Adam Wainwright. He was on there 2 weeks ago. So if you haven't listened to that one yet, check it out, with Adam Wainwright talking about his relationship with umpire Joe West. It was a really fun episode to hear those two talk about how far they go back, and hear Wainwright talk about some of his beginnings in the minor leagues. To hear him, the thing that fascinated me the most about Wainwright is he could sit there and he could name you each and every one of his coaches through the years that he spent in the minor leagues. That's pretty good memory for a guy that's been in the big leagues for so long.
Well, consider he wasn't in the minor leagues a very long time because he was good. Probably not that many guys he needs to remember, but you make a good point. He does have a collective memory that's pretty good.
Well, hey, all kinds of Cardinal content coming your way this week right here on Claibs Online, along with the new Dr. Rick podcast, a new Huddle Up with Howard, so much stuff. And then, hey, two-man game is starting back up soon, too, with Rammer and Rock talking hoops with the SLU Billikens and the NBA also starting here in a few weeks. So lots coming your way here on Claibs Online. For Mike Claiborne, I'm Joe Roderick. This has been Lunch with Claibs and Joe, powered by Ameren, Illinois, and driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura. We'll talk to you next week.
St. Louis Acura has an unbeatable selection of new cars arriving daily, like the all-new 2023 Acura Integra. We also have a great selection of over 200 pre-owned and factory precision courtesy vehicles with finance rates as low as 1.9% for 36 months with approved credit. And we've added Saturday service hours to our newly renovated service facility. Don't forget, we'll buy your vehicle here at our dealership or from the convenience of your home. St. Louis Acura, better than ever for you.